Are you a high-achieving dental entrepreneur frustrated by the gap between where you are and where you want to go? Are you tired of advisors whose advice keeps you merely surviving when you should be thriving? I'm Tim McNeely, and I believe you deserve to build true wealth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and leave your dent in the universe. Welcome to the Dental Wealth Nation Show, where we hand you the keys to unlock true wealth quicker and with less effort than you ever thought. You have made an amazing choice to be here right now, today, listening to this episode of the Dental Wealth Nation Show. I don't know about you, but I've been feeling a little overwhelmed lately. When I go out to dinner and the bill comes, it's a little higher than it used to be. When I go to the grocery store, that bill's just a little bigger than what I'm usually used to. And in fact, in my wife's dental practice, the supplies and the cost, and maybe in your practice too, things are costing just a little bit more than what they used to. And that's why you have made an incredible choice to be here today. Because by the time we finish, you're going to know how to really uncover some hidden opportunities in your practice. There's real tangible options that can help you save money, increase profitability, and ultimately make your business even more valuable. You're going to have some practical, proven strategies that you can go back and start applying right now today to boost your cash flow without adding any extra stress or extra hours to your week. But most importantly of all, I want you to walk away feeling hopeful about your financial future. There are more ways than you know to really build a brighter future, a more secure tomorrow, and it may be a lot simpler than you think. And that's why I'm so excited to have Scott Grotjan from Silverback here today. And what I love about Scott is that he really lights up when it comes to helping dentists find money they didn't even know that you were missing. You're going to find out his passion is contagious, and the results, well, they speak for themselves. Scott, welcome to the show.
Tim, thanks. It's an honor to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to meet with you today.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. And for those listeners who stick around, we're going to even be dropping in some fun facts. We've never done this before. Some fun facts about gorillas today. So we're going to talk about saving money and gorillas. This is my mind's just blown. It's going to be so much fun. But before we get to all those fun facts about gorillas, and we got 3 of them we're going to share with you, could you give us a little introduction on who you are and what you do and how you got started?
Yeah, Tim, thanks again. My name is Scott Grotjan. I lead an organization called Silverback, and we do profit improvement work. And so we help companies save money and become more profitable. We do work in all different industries, but have a particular interest in dental practices, healthcare-related practices. We got started doing this, Tim, by helping people save money on shipping and freight, actually. I spent the first half of my career in the trucking industry, and we ended up partnering up with a CPA firm, and we were part of a CPA firm for 15 years. And so we just started helping people save money on shipping and freight, and then it grew and grew and grew. They loved the work that we were doing, and they're like, hey, what else can you look at? And so we started looking at all different things. And now we look at literally anything an organization spends money on other than people. So anything other than human body. We've been doing this work for almost 25 years. October will be 25 years.
Amazing, Scott. And when you're looking at dental practices, right, you got a whole bunch of areas that practices are spending money. And so do you have some common areas where most of the money is hiding? And I know every practice is so different, but when you look at them, do you find some common areas that doctors really should dive in and take a look at first?
Tim, let's talk about some of the what I might call common ones, and then dental specific related ones. So for example, the common ones, everyone has a utility bill. And interestingly enough, there's money to be saved on a utility bill. Depending upon whether you're in a regulated state or a deregulated state, I would recommend pulling out your utility bill. There's an 800 number on there usually, or a customer service number, and call them up and say, am I on the best rate for my business? Many times they'll walk you through that. And if you're not on the best rate, they'll help you get on the best rate. It's that simple.
Wow. Right. Wait, let's walk through that again, because it sounds too simple, Scott. Like we can save money on the utility bill just by calling the utility company.
Correct. Tim, they're not going to pick up the phone and call the practice and say, hey, you can move rates and save money. But if you call them and ask them, they will work through the numbers. And if you're not on the right tariff, you can move to the right tariff and save money. Let me give you an example, because this will blow your mind. We just did another practice. Their electricity bill was about $4,000 a month. And they moved tariffs. It was literally, they moved tariffs within the utility, and they're saving about $1,200 a month. And that was simply by picking up the phone and calling.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Why don't you think doctors are picking up the phone and calling? Is it a knowledge problem? Is it a time problem? Or an awareness? Like what do you see going on?
I think it's all of those, to be fair. They're probably not aware that it is that simple, or that opportunity is out there and that it can pay that rich of a dividend. They probably have 8 other things on their to-do list that are probably more important. Although I might argue that this is fairly important and fairly easy to do. And so it's an awareness piece, it's a time piece, it's a priority piece. Absolutely.
Well, and it certainly can get overwhelming, right? That's just one example. That's the utility bill,
Right.
But literally you can have, tens of thousands of dollars of expenses running through your practice every single month. And to look at these things takes a little bit of time and effort, doesn't it?
It does. It takes a little bit of time and effort, and maybe a little bit of knowledge. And you can learn that knowledge yourself through the internet. We do a fair amount of work on credit cards. Every practice is taking credit cards. The really easy way to figure out your true cost is take the total dollars that were swiped and the total fees, right? And so you get a percentage that it costs to process your credit cards. And you should be in the 2.25, 175 or 1.75%. If you're different than that, you're leaving some money on the table.
Wow. So when you're working with practices, what do you typically help them save? And once again, I know every single practice is different, but on average, right, how much extra do you find practices are spending because they're not doing these simple things?
So a fair amount of that depends on the size of the practice, of course, right? The more revenue, the more expenses, the more money there is out there. I would say there's probably $20,000 to $40,000 per doc available if you look across all the categories, all the things that you're spending money on.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, Scott. So what is the process for even kind of like starting to analyze this, right? If a doctor's saying, man, I want to start looking at this, should they call you? Should they assign a staff member? Like what are your thoughts around this?
Well, the first thing to do, Tim, and this is what we do, this is our process. We literally pull out the bill and document every line item on the bill, what it's for, how the price is impacted or how it's changed, and the calculation on it. And the first question is, are we using it? Do we need it? If you're not using it or you don't need it, discontinue it, right? That's really easy, quick stuff to do. And then from there, it takes a little more analysis on it. But that's where it starts, pulling out the bill, inventorying every line item on the bill and what it's related to.
Wow, amazing. And so, we also promised our listeners a couple fun facts about gorillas. And so let's drop one in. What should we know about gorillas, Scott?
So Tim, the bite on a gorilla is very, very strong. Very strong, right? Think about that. It's the PSI on that is about 1,300. And a typical human would be about 150 to 200. So think God. About 10 times, like when you bite into your dinner this evening, the gorilla is using 10 times the force to chew up that meat.
If you're a dentist, you don't want that gorilla to bite down on you, do you?
No, you do not. That would be bad. It would be very, very bad.
That is a lot of bite for sure. And Wow, we got two more coming for you too if
Yeah.
you stay tuned to the end. So I love this. This is the first time we're talking about saving money, improving your practice, and dropping in some fun facts about gorillas. And so, Scott, if you were to, let's pretend we were playing a game show and you walked into an office and you had 15 minutes to really help this doctor improve, where would you go hunting first?
Tim, I always love dental supplies. It's always one of my favorite areas, and I believe there's always a fair amount of opportunity there. And so that's if I'm showing up at a dental practice today, I'm going right to the dental supplies.
Okay, excellent. And what about kind of red flags? Are there some warning signs that a practice may be bleeding money right now today?
Tim, I always say I truly believe that everyone should leverage their buying power. We've walked into many practices where they take the approach that, hey, we are shopping every single item across multiple vendors. And when you look at that, and you may be saving $4, $5, $6 on an item, but when you look at the amount of time that the staff is making in shopping, and you look at the hourly wage against that, many times the money that you're spending on wages is outweighing the money that you spend on shopping.
Wow. Well, go ahead.
What I was going to say, what's interesting about that, right, is there's really two large players in that space that are the primary providers, and then there's a bunch of what we might call resellers. The resellers are selling the two biggies products, and then they may be cheaper. The other thing you need to look at when you pull out that invoice, you're going to see the item price, but go down to the bottom. Did they charge you for shipping? And if so, how much did they charge? People measure that item price on a per unit, and they do an awesome job on that. But it's really an all-in price. You've got to go to the bottom, and you got to look at, did they charge us for shipping? And if so, how much? And then the second thing, is there any additional fees or costs that are added on there? Any surcharges? Those surcharges are just profit takers. They can mark that item down more on the top line because they know they'll get it back on the bottom line.
Wow. So, right, I mean, is this a one-time event that a dental practice should do, or is this an ongoing thing?
Tim, I think it's something that you make a concerted effort to do it once, get on top of it, and then manage it going forward, right? You can go in there and do it, go through I literally say, pull out every single bill, inventory it, figure out what you're paying for, get it under control, and then do a checkup on it at least once a year, maybe every 6 months.
Wow. So, I think a lot of doctors kind of get stuck in this mindset of the best way to grow their practice is seeing more patients, doing more crowns, right? Everyone's focused on the top line revenue, but the bottom line, the EBITDA really matters in a practice too, doesn't it?
Oh my gosh. The quickest way to improve the profitability of your business is reduce your costs. There's no additional labor costs. There's no other additional costs through growing the revenue. And it's money that falls to the bottom line. I think there's absolutely value in growing the top line revenue and growing the practice and the procedures and the customers and that sort of thing. Absolutely. But reducing costs is a fabulous way to improve the profitability.
I want to hang out there a little bit because the listeners of the show, right, you are focused on growing your EBITDA, right? EBITDA is that number that you care about. You're heading for an exit, and you care about this number because you're going to get some kind of a multiple of your EBITDA. But let's talk about that top line revenue versus what actually drops to the bottom line, and how that's different. Why does that bottom line number matter so much, Scott?
Ultimately, Tim, that's the value of the practice. If you're going to sell it, you're going to cash in your chips, and say you're going to get a multiple of 7 or 8 times earnings. If you can improve the bottom line by $100,000, you're going to put about $700,000 or $800,000 additional money in your pockets when you cash out.
Wow!
And that is huge dividends.
Yeah, that's real tangible money. Whereas if you grow your top line by $100,000, not all of that drops to EBITDA because you've got expenses
Correct.
associated with it. And I do think so often we kind of focus on the expenses, but we're so focused on growth, growth, growth that we miss some of those obvious things, like you mentioned, as simple as calling the utility company or
Right.
trying to negotiate with your supply company. So what are some other areas that you help doctors look at that typically get overlooked?
Yeah, Tim, again, going back to some of the common ones that you see in your practice, it could be your phone bills. Um, that's another great example of going through an inventory and everything you have and finding out exactly what you're paying for, what you're using and not using. It's really, really common for us to go through a phone bill, which might include phones, internet, data, maybe sometimes some TV or such in the waiting room. And it wouldn't be uncommon for them to have maybe 3 or 4 internet connections. You certainly need one, a primary, and you should have a secondary as a backup. And ideally, those are with 2 different companies, right? If Comcast goes down or brand A goes down, you want to move it over to B, which hopefully is on a different circuit. But you don't need more than 2. We did a practice not terribly long ago out on the East Coast, and they had 4 internet services. And we asked them, we're like, hey, help me understand, how are you using 4? And they're like, we don't have 4. And I'm like, you're paying for 4. Pull those bills out and inventory them. Keep them side by side. Look at what's on the bill. There's money hidden there.
Wow, so powerful. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
You're listening to the Dental Wealth Nation Show, where we give you the keys to building true wealth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with the friends you care about. Ready to level up? Grab a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Dental Wealth Nation, and unlock the secrets of building true wealth today.
Hey, we are talking with Scott Grotjan of Silverback, and we're talking about how to find hidden money in your practice and some of those things that are hiding in the expenses that you might not even know about. And so, Scott, I know a lot of times doctors are thinking, well, I'm working with an accountant, I'm working with my CPA. Isn't this the work they're supposed to be doing for me?
Tim, I don't think that that's a realistic expectation. Your CPA is looking at your tax implications and your books. They're probably not looking at invoice data and accounting for all the parts on it. The financial advisor, again, they're giving you guidance related to financial aspects of your business and investments and such. They're probably not looking at every run-of-the-mill, day-to-day invoices. I think it's something you have to assign to someone in your practice. If you don't have a person that has that expertise, there's certainly organizations out there like ours that do that. And the beauty, Tim, I don't think I've shared this before, but the beauty of our work is all the work we do is on a contingency of savings, and so it can be, very, very low risk and sometimes potentially high rewards.
Wow. So, right, what I kind of hear you saying is, so even though my CPA might be giving me my monthly financials that I look at, and the CPA says, oh, well, your expense categories are all in range, doesn't necessarily mean that they're optimal. So I could be within range of, this budget's supposed to be, 3%, and I'm right at 2.8, but it doesn't mean that I'm not overspending. Is that what I hear you saying?
You are spot on, exactly correct. Just because you're in range doesn't mean there's not profit hidden in there that you can pick up. That's why we call it lost and found. Right? It's lost, and you can find it.
Wow, I love that, right? And who wouldn't love finding a little bit of extra money in their practice to drop to the bottom line? Really, really powerful stuff. And so, how long have you been running Silverback and doing this?
So we've been doing this work about 25 years. We do it all over the country, all different industries. Like I said, we spend a fair amount of time in the healthcare space and with dental practices. And those are just fun. We just love doing it.
Wow. Now let's drop in another little fun fact about gorillas too. We're dropping these in, making it a little exciting, doing something a little bit different today.
Yeah. So Tim, the Silverback gorilla is very much the leader of the troop. Okay. They don't get terribly excited. They're kind of peaceful, if you will, until they get threatened. And then they're ferocious. Think about that. Think about the threat at a practice and making money, and you should be ferocious about finding the lost profit.
Wow. Love that. So is that the connection between Silverback and saving money in your practice?
That's part of it, Tim. Silverback is a name that we came up with that really speaks to the work we do, because we help people get Silverback. We help them get money back. And the gorilla is really just a great representation of that.
Wow. Can you take us through a case study, a doctor that you've worked with, and what was that process like, and what were some of the results that you were able to get for them?
Yeah. So in dental practice, 5 dentists in the practice. I think maybe, I'm not sure exactly the count on the hygienists and other staff. We looked at everything they spent money on. The dental supplies, this was a classic example that I shared with you earlier. They shopped every dental supply provider they could. They were really proud of their shopping. And ultimately, in the end, we leveraged their buying power and we put them with one provider. And on the dental supplies, I believe the savings was a little over $60,000 a year.
Oh my gosh, incredible. What was the doctor's reaction when you were able to do that for him?
He's like, "Are you being real?" And I'm like, "Yes, it's real. The numbers are there." And the best part about it is, because they were shopping all these different providers, they did not build a vendor relationship, right? So you have a piece of equipment breakdown, and again, you don't have a relationship with any vendor because you kind of spread the wealth. And so when you pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I need this repair right away," you maybe don't get the same attention as if you're buying all your stuff from one vendor. And that was one of the benefits of it that came down the road, that he was like, "Oh, this is awesome." Before, we used to call several, and we didn't really feel like we got priority. And now we call our dental supply provider. We get priority. They're out here right away, and it's awesome.
Wow, amazing. So do you find that there's a different mindset shift or a different way that doctors really need to think about their practice? And do you see a difference between the most successful ones and the ones who just kind of flounder?
Tim, I say question everything. I think if you go about it, trust but verify, and question everything. And those are the ones I think that long term will be extremely successful.
Wow. Well, no, I absolutely agree with that assessment. And in fact, in my book, Dental Wealth Nation, we talk about the ultra wealthy and family offices. And one things that they do really, really well, you just mentioned it, trust but verify. They're always stress testing their plans to make sure they're getting the results that they expect. And the same should be true for you and your dental practices, not just the expenses, but questioning everything and always improving. So I love that focus that you have just on cost cutting and paying attention to these things, because if you're running a big enterprise, you may have a team doing that for you. You may not, but certainly on the smaller scale, 1-2 locations, you may not have that partner to really help you do this. So I love how you come in and really help partner with these practices to help them find the missing money.
Right. Yeah. And it's fun. There's nothing better than finding a $20 bill in the sand.
Yeah. Right. You may laugh. I still bend over and picked up pennies and dimes when I'm out on the street, right? It's just a fun little thing to do. And it reminds me that wealth is everywhere if you just look for it. So that's why I do it, but it's still fun. And right, it's probably even more fun to find $60,000 hidden in your practice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So do you think that kind of in dental school, some dentists pick up some false beliefs about money and things they need to unlearn in their practice?
Tim, I don't know that I have a ton of knowledge about exactly what they learn in dental school. I don't know that they get real life lessons related to the practice and managing the expenses of it. I might be wrong on that. I'm not a dentist. I've never been to dental school. But I think they get a lot of lessons related to, practice management, but not necessarily drilled down into the expense management side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, right. It's one of those things, like, it's just a cost of doing business. And if they're taking that approach, they should reconsider.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that, because I know a lot of owners, they just feel like they're stuck in this cash eating machine. It sure generates a lot of cash, but it sure sucks a lot of cash too. And I think there's this tendency to believe, well, it's just dental. The supplies are just expensive, and I just have to pay this much. And they're not really questioning, like, am I doing this in the best way? So I love that you're bringing that to light for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to the doctor who's really burnt out and believe they've kind of hit their ceiling and not quite sure what to do next? Right? That doctor who is struggling with the rising cost. How do you help them out?
First things first, take a deep breath and relax a little bit. It's never as bad as it looks. And the future is bright. And there's absolutely positively things you can do to make tomorrow better than today.
I love that.
Again, I focus on the expense side, so I might be biased. I'm not sure, but I think you're looking through your, all the bills that you paid last week or last month. That's a great place to start if you're looking for a brighter tomorrow.
Yeah. So just kind of silly question here, right? I'm listening to you talk, right? You mentioned you work on a contingencies of savings, like. Why would a doctor not do this? Is there, like, literally someone out there who'd be like, yeah, this just isn't right for you? But I don't see it, but I could be missing it.
Tim, we have a tagline in our logo called "Let's talk about the gorilla in the room," and that's a play on words. And the play on words is this: if you're being real, there's not a good reason to not. You can't come up with a good reason not to do this. Right? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
The other play on words about this is sometimes, Tim, it can be a little bit polarizing in a practice. And let's unpack that just a little bit. So, for example, there's probably someone in the practice that owns dental supplies, right? It falls under their umbrella. And sometimes they could be offended that an outside organization like ours is coming in to look at it. Now, I would tell the practice ownership, this isn't about whether Bob or Sally did a good job or didn't do a good job. They just don't have the same knowledge that we're working from. We see the purchasing at multiple practices all over the country, and we see what the vendors are doing all over the country. And that's just data that the person in the practice doesn't have access to.
Wow.
They may know from their practice, they may know about the 3 other practices that they've worked at in their career, but they don't maybe see 5 different practices this week alone. And that's the difference.
Well, right. I think what you just brought up is so important too, because right there may be fear that, right, if I'm the one who's owned supplies, I'm not doing my job right. If all of a sudden you're saving $60,000 a year, right, I might feel really, really threatened. So what would you tell to the doctor who's going through this process, and how do you make your team feel safe through this?
So ultimately, it's not about whether they did a good job or a bad job. It's a little bit like me trying to drill on teeth or a dentist trying to drill on teeth. The dentist has been trained differently than I've been trained, right? Like, I could go in there, I could get the drill and I could do it. I probably wouldn't deaden the guy because, I wouldn't know to do that. It's the same thing in the work that we do. We've just been trained differently. We just have a different knowledge base that we're pulling from. And it's not about whether they did a good job or a bad job.
I love that so much. And, I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm kind of ready for another little fun fact about gorillas here.
Tim, this is the best one I got. Okay. I saved the best for last.
I'm so ready.
So I've never been fingerprinted at a law enforcement place. Okay. Just full disclosure. I've never had that experience. but each of us is uniquely identifiable by our fingerprints, right? Ironically enough, gorillas each gorilla has a unique nose print that you can use to identify them.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know which guy had the ingenuity to come up with like, hey, let's run an ink pad across a gorilla's nose and then put it on paper and compare them. But I'd love to talk to that guy.
I hope he didn't get bit during the process.
I hope so too. The bite force is really bad.
Wow, that a unique nose print, right? I would imagine that maybe with dogs too. And our dogs do some incredible nose art on our windows. But how fascinating that each gorilla has a unique nose print. That's mind blown, Scott. That's pretty good.
Awesome. Well, glad to enlighten you.
Yeah. So as I kind of think through this, I know, let's assume you got a busy practice, you're doing a couple $1 million a year, right? You're feeling stressed out with the team and like you're really running at capacity, right? How much work is this honestly going to take for a doctor to have you start doing the assessment? How much of an interruption is it going to be bringing you into a practice? Because I know that can be a fear sometimes. It's like, well, I need to do this thing, but now I've got to dedicate staff and looking at like this is going to take a lot of time, energy, and effort. And I just don't know that I can make time for that. So talk to me a little bit about the process and how you integrate with the practice to really do this analysis.
Yeah, Tim, we get that question often, right? Ultimately, we all probably have about 8 things on our to-do list that aren't going to get done today. And adding in a cost reduction project is probably not going to feel great. We have a couple pillars at our company. The first is, of course, we want to save people a lot of money. The second one is we'll do all the work that you allow. And so literally, whatever it is, if it's collecting invoices, we'll do it. If it's help implementing the change, we'll do it. If it's vendor management, we'll do it. And so the really long answer to your question is it doesn't take much at all. Wow.
Excellent. Yeah. Because like I said, I know that can be a concern, right? We've all got important things to do, but we just don't get to them because we don't have the team. And once again, coming back to family offices, that's what I help driven dental entrepreneurs build is that team of people who can help lift that load with you. And so I love that you really do come along and help do some of this heavy lifting so that the cash can start flowing again.
Yeah. Anything they'll allow us to do, we'll do it, whatever it is.
Excellent. Love that. And so, Scott, how can we get in touch with you? How can we learn more about you and Silverback?
So the easiest way to find us, Tim, is on the web at getsilverback.com. That's what we do. We help people get Silverback. So getsilverback.com. That's probably the easiest way to find us. If you have a practice out there and they want to have a conversation, I'd love to have a conversation with them. Even, just giving them some guidance, giving them some thoughts, maybe kind of helping them jumpstart. That'd be awesome.
Excellent. So any closing thoughts for us before we sign off here, Scott?
Hey, tomorrow is bright. Tomorrow is bright. Mm-hmm. And you can make tomorrow even brighter by helping, by reducing your expenses and improving your profitability.
Love that. So, well, hey, thank you for sharing so generously with us, because this really is a huge part of the exit planning process. And as a certified exit planning advisor, this is one thing I love to help people do is maximize the value of their lifetime of hard work and saving a little bit of money and doing it in a way that's fun, that lights you up, that builds for a higher exit. That's a win-win scenario for everyone. So I would encourage you, reach out to Scott, let him help get some of your silver back. Thanks again for sharing so generously with us, Scott.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap on today's Dental Wealth Nation show. If you've loved today's insight, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share the wealth with your dental friends. I'm Tim McNeely, and remember, your amazing life of significance is just one smart decision away. Keep thriving, and catch you next time on the Dental Wealth Nation show.